Wait, so how exactly does Docker work under the hood?
Great question. Docker isn't just a lightweight virtual machine. It's more like a smart user space tool that utilizes the Linux kernel.
Really? So no hypervisor needed?
Exactly. Docker uses Linux features like namespaces for resource isolation.
Namespaces, what do those do?
They isolate things like process IDs, network interfaces, and even file systems for each container. It's like giving each container its own private space.
And what about performance? How does it manage resources?
That's where control groups, or cgroups, come in. They allow Docker to limit CPU, memory, and I/O usage effectively.
So containers run as regular processes?
Yes, exactly! They're super lightweight because they share the host system kernel.
Interesting. How are the images and containers organized?
Docker uses a layered file system known as the overlay file system. Images consist of stacked read-only layers.
And the container only adds a writable layer on top?
Spot on. This way, any changes happen just in the top layer, keeping the base image intact.
So when I start a container, what's happening behind the scenes?
First, the Docker daemon gets the command, then it uses containerd and runc to set up everything.
What do they do specifically?
They create namespaces for isolation, apply cgroup constraints, mount the root file system, and set up networking.
Sounds like a whole orchestration process.
It is. And once all that's set, it forks the container's main process in its own isolated environment.
What if I'm using macOS or Windows?
Good catch! Since Docker relies on Linux, it runs inside a small VM on those systems, making it still feel native.
And what about security? How does Docker keep containers safe?
Docker has multiple layers of security, like Linux capabilities, AppArmor, or SELinux profiles, and seccomp filters to restrict access.
That's impressive. So it's not just containers flying around with no control?
Exactly. Docker has a well-structured way to ensure isolation and security while leveraging the Linux kernel.
Wow, I didn't realize how sophisticated it was.
It really is. That's why Docker has become so popular in the development world.